It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's Jill on Money. And that means me, Jill Schlesinger. We are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios. Capital One, what's in your wallet? All right, this is the program that tries to help you out, steer you in the right direction. We got so many funny questions. I appeared on CBS this morning doing a very quick hit on open enrollment. I would like to just kind of flesh out a few things about open enrollment that people just really should concentrate on. And if you have more questions about it, we've got a very lengthy post up on the website. Just go to Jill on Money and click the Read tab. But generally speaking, I think what is not being, I know what we all do. Well, whatever I did last year, I'll do this year. But you do want to actually go back and spend some time on this. You want to figure out how much you paid last year. You add up the premiums. Those are usually deducted from your pay. You see how much money you paid before your coverage kicked in, the deductible, and add in those co-pays or for medications or office visits. Isn't that fun? Isn't that a fun way to spend some time? And then you want to project what your costs are going to be in the year ahead. And so, there's generally three different types of plans that you're going to see. There's going to be a health maintenance organization. You're limited to seeing doctors within a specific network. The preferred provider organizations, you pay less if you use the providers in the network, but you can also use out of network, except it's going to cost you more. And then a lot of companies are adding in the high deductible health plan. Those are paired with a tax advantage health savings account. That gives you a lower premium, but you're on the hook for a higher deductible, right? So this is important because this is real money. And for those of you who are not getting your insurance through your employer, we have the Affordable Care Act enrollment. And by the way, that's just 6 weeks. So you really have to pay attention. That is only open until December 15th. And all that is happening right as we have Medicare open enrollment. And if you are a nice person, you would sit down with your mom or your dad or a loved one or a friend who's getting their Medicare coverage and go through the Medicare online tools to help you compare plans. Okay? Isn't that good? More on our website, jillonmoney.com. Okay. So I had to blow through that on the air. Now I had to blow through that in the radio show. We love to hear from you, and the easiest way to get in touch with us is to just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That is what Susan did. Susan is calling from Pittsburgh, which is one of my favorite markets because I love KDKA. So, Susan, welcome to the program. What can I do for you?
Thank you. Hi, Jill. I'm 53 years old, and I hope to be going back to work soon after a 12-year hiatus raising kids.
Great.
My husband and I have good savings, investment, and retirement accounts. The place where I hope to start working will match contributions up to 8%, so I'm planning to contribute at least that much. Does it make sense for me to make Roth contributions to a 403B at work? And should I contribute more than the 8% required for the match?
Okay, so I love the 8%. Now, you said you've got a husband and you guys have a good chunk of savings. Let's just go through this. Tell me first, non-retirement savings. So like your emergency reserve or any investment outside of a retirement plan. What do you have?
Non-retirement investments are about $2.3 million.
Okay, great. And then retirement investments. What do you got in there?
Retirement, I have about 130. My husband has about 650, and then we each have a inherited IRA from one of our parents.
Okay. And so will the inherited IRA, is there a number on that?
The total is about 280 between the two of us.
I love when the math works so beautifully. So let's just call it a little over $1 million in retirement, right?
Okay.
And 2.3 in non-retirement. And the retirement assets are all pre-tax, meaning these are not Roth assets, correct?
Correct.
And I'm assuming because you're such good savers that you must have made some good money over time. So when you go back to work, Susan, what will the combined income with you and your husband be?
It'll be about 180.
Okay.
But we also have a lot in
passive income?
Passive income.
Yeah. So your tax bracket is higher than your income might indicate. Is that pretty much the way
Correct.
to take? Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Although after the 2021 tax year, it will drop significantly.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So your bracket's going to go down in the future. Okay. Possibly.
Possibly, yes.
Okay, I gotcha. All right. Now, I guess there's a couple things. Obviously, you've got a ton of money, which is fabulous.
Right.
How are the age of the kids?
We have an 18-year-old who will be going to college in the fall, and we have enough money in ESAs and 529s that I think we can cover 4 years without any trouble.
Great.
And we have a senior in college right now. There's $44,000 in that 529 account, about 18 of which will be used for second semester of senior year. But she's also hoping to go to grad school a year or two after she graduates from college.
Okay, Mark just
and
gave
we
you
want to help her with that.
Mark gave you a thumbs down on grad school. He's very anti-grad school. What would her discipline be? Let's just find. Maybe she needs to go to grad school, Mark.
Physical therapy, and you actually have to have 3 years of grad school for that.
Also, very good for the aging parents to have a physical therapist in the family. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
I mean, let's not go too far astray. Okay, so there's not a clear. First of all, number one. There's no problems here unless you spend a ton of money. Do you spend way more money than I think, or are you good savers? It seems to me like
you're good savers.
That's what I figured. Okay, so on $180,000, you're living on that. You don't need the passive income, presumably?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your husband is making retirement plan contributions as well?
Yes.
And
he's maxing out his, I think he has a 401k at work.
Okay. So there's something funny going on here, and this is what I would say. While you said you happen to have like a high tax bracket, at least for 2020 and 2021, right?
Right.
So I would say this. For 2020 and 2021, if I were on your income, I would max out, and that would be $19,000 according to the law right this second, and maybe a little bit more. $19,000 plus $6,000, which is what is the catch-up contribution because you're over 50, you would use that as a pre-tax contribution to your 403B. Do the same thing in 2021. But in 2022, what I might do is if your income tax bracket is going to shift lower, I would use your Roth option in those subsequent years. So again, you pay the tax that's due, and then later on, you'll take the money out. It will come out without any taxation. That happens starting in 2022. All right? Hope that helps. Susan, that's a great question, and you're a great saver. You are listening to Jill on Money. If you would like to be a great saver and investor like Susan and her husband, maybe we can help you get on track. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And you can always hop onto the website, jillonmoney.com. There, sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Hey, Mark, this microphone, very droopy. Oh, there we go. Try to lift it on up. We have a beautiful sounding studio, but I mean, I tell you the truth, it's not the prettiest. Not exactly state of the art, but it sounds good. We'll take it. If you've got a financial question, I want to hear from you. That's it. No messing around anymore. Ask the question you've been thinking about. Please, it's so easy. Just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Isn't that easy? Just like that. That's what Sam did. He is calling from Prescott, Arizona. Sam, Mark instructed me to pronounce the town you are from as Prescott. not Prescott, which is what I usually do. How do you feel? Did I do a good enough job with that?
You did perfect according to the natives.
All right, good. You're not a native?
I'm a transplant from Texas.
Oh, excellent. Okay, Texas transplant. Tell us what's going on. How can I help you out?
Okay, well, my question revolves around trying to avoid minimum required distributions.
Okay.
And to give you a little background, I'm retired, I'm 69, I'm single, I'm debt-free. I have a traditional IRA of $200K, a Roth IRA of $340K, and a 401K that's valued around $620,000.
Okay.
And I'm going to be staring down the barrel, to use a Texas phrase, of MRDs next year. And I'm wondering if it's wise to go ahead and convert at least my traditional IRA, valued at $200K, over into a Roth IRA. I was thinking until last night that I could convert my 401K to a Roth 401K and thereby avoid the minimum required distributions. But according to what I was reading, for 401Ks, you still are required to have MRDs for a 401K Roth. Is that correct?
Hold on a second. Let me think about that. What would they? Well, first of all, I think there's a couple of questions. I don't know if that's the case, because if you had a Roth 401K, the issue would be, let's just pretend you didn't have a regular 401K. Let's just say you had $600,000 and it was a Roth 401K. What would you be required to distribute? In other words, there's no tax due on it.
That's right, but according to what I read, and I'm not sure what the source was, I should have paid more attention, but it said for 401K Roth, you're still required to have minimum required distributions, and so that may be
I
erroneous.
don't know about that. I was under. Okay, let me just think about this here. Roth 401ks, I believe, are not subject to minimum distribution requirements after 70 and a half, as long as they are rolled over to a Roth IRA. In other words, if you have a Roth 401k and it stays as a Roth 401k, then yes, you have to take it out. But presume if you had a Roth 401k and it was rolled into a Roth IRA, then no, you don't. So that gets to the answer of that question. But let's go backwards for a second. How much money do you have in cash so that you would be able to pay the tax that would be due if we did convert some of your traditional IRA money?
About $78,000.
$78,000. It's not that much money, but you are debt-free. What are you living on? You collecting Social Security right now?
Yes, I have Social Security and a pension, and it's more than sufficient to take care of my basic cost of living.
And how much is the total income for you?
Right at $60,000 a year.
Okay. So here's two choices. I think that I wouldn't worry too much about the 401k. I mean, it would be fine. I think you're right. You start with a traditional IRA, okay? And in that case, what you might do is you might convert a little bit at a time so that you can either do it, one of two choices. One is you could say, I'll do my MRD next year. It's fine, whatever. But then I'll start converting alongside that. The other option would be that you could convert a big chunk this year and stay within like 24% tax bracket. That will allow you to get up to, let's say you've got your Social Security and your pension. You would be able to maybe pull out about 100 grand or so, but I don't want you to sop up all of the liquidity of the cash. So I want you to take out enough money so that you still have a good base. So maybe what I would do is this. I'd convert some money this year. I'd pay the tax that's due. It's now in a Roth. And then you're still going to have to do some required distribution. when you take your required distribution, just pop it into that cash account, and then you could convert a little bit at a time and basically use your required minimum distribution to pay the tax that's due on the conversion. Because the problem that you have is not that you're going to have some horrible tax event. It's not, nothing bad's going to happen to you. I see you as just having a liquidity issue, which is, if you said, I want to convert my entire traditional IRA tomorrow, all of that $200,000 would be taxed at the 24, some at the 32% tax bracket, and you'd have to sop up some of your emergency reserve fund to pay the taxes due. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense at a time when you're retired. So I would go a little bit at a time, and I wouldn't really worry about the old 401k. I wouldn't worry about converting that because I just don't think you have enough cash on hand to pay all the tax that would be due.
Right. So after I start taking required minimum distributions, I can still do partial conversions. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can. And so you can do both of those, sort of concurrently. And remember, you've got this really interesting window of time because, the tax law went into effect in 2018, right? So, we're finishing the second year of this tax law. So for the next 5 years after that, you have these tax brackets really that are pretty wide for someone like you. In other words, you could have income up to $160,000 as a single tax filer, and your maximum bracket is only 24%. And so if you start at least taking the distributions and doing the conversion, and you stay within that 24% tax bracket, I think you're going to get a lot of that money out of the IRA over the course of 5 years.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right.
I really appreciate the advice.
My pleasure. Enjoy Prescott, Sam, the Texas transplant. I appreciate you calling. Take care.
All right. Adios.
Adios. I like it. So really, that's a great question. And the rules can be very tricky on all of these transactions. If you are considering a Roth conversion, give us a call. Remember, part of the reason you want the minimum required distribution to be lower is that income can really change different aspects of even your Social Security and Medicare. It might change the amount that you're on the hook for. So as much as possible for many of us, it's very exciting and interesting and certainly worth considering whether or not a Roth could work for you. And for those of you who have the Roth 401k option, remember, the Roth 401k is not subject to those income limits that the Roth IRA is limited to. That's something that's kind of cool. So when you think about a Roth, many people make too much money to actually use a Roth. Well, if you have a Roth 401k, those rules are out the window. Kind of cool, right? Okay, it's Jill on Money. If you've got a question about a Roth conversion, a retirement plan, an investment, insurance, education, anything with a $, give us a shout. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. All you have to do is send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Conversely, if you are the kind of person who's hanging out on our website, which you should be doing, obviously. By the way, I sent like an emoticon to somebody, and I wrote obvi, and my friend wrote back, "What does this mean?" That's exactly what I wrote back. Obviously not so obvious is exactly what I wrote back. Okay. Anyway, if you're the kind of person who likes to hang out on our website, we love you. There at jillonmoney.com, what you can do is you can just bookmark us, And anytime you're researching something or watching a segment or maybe grabbing listen to our sister podcast, you can just send us a note because we've got a contact button in the upper right-hand corner, okay? Marianne writes, I enrolled in group universal insurance when I was employed. I maintained my payments after the business unit closed, and I was laid off. Okay. So this is something where, basically a lot of group policies, they're portable. You can take them with you. So Marianne says, I've continued making quarterly payments. The death benefit is $180,000. I was told once I turned 70, the payments would stay at the premium rate at that time and not increase. However, when I turned 71, the payments increased, the quarterly payments from, get this, $678 to almost double, $1,218. Ouch. Now, Marianne says, I'm being forced to decrease my benefit by 50% to afford the premiums. It doesn't seem ethical. Your thoughts? Listen, here's the thing. Life insurance, they can't guarantee the premiums won't rise for a whole class of people, but they can say we won't just pick on you. So what that means is if they went to the states and petitioned for an increase in premiums, and the states say, yeah, okay, then they're allowed to do it. And it sucks. I'm sorry to say that. That's a bad word to use, but it stinks. So what I think is important is that we go back and find out for you, Marianne, do you still need this coverage at all? And that requires you to come back to me with some more information. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe you can take the cash value out of this policy. I need to know some more, but I think that if you really do need the insurance, decreasing the death benefit is fine, but this can happen, gang. It happens usually it happens in the long-term care policies. That's what we've seen it happen. Very, very important that you keep an eye on that. So send us some more information. Andrew writes, I received a letter from a credit card company saying they're going to close my inactive card unless I use it in the next 60 days. And he says, I've been keeping this open because I understand that canceling your credit card reflects negatively on your credit score. Canceling it would bring my debt to credit utilization from about 30 to 40%. I don't think it would have too much impact on my credit, which is otherwise excellent. The real question is, better for me to close the account or for them to cancel it? Closed by user better than canceled by lender, or does it make a difference? I'm not sure it makes a difference, but I think it's actually the other way around. I think if the lender does it, it's better for you. And, again, it's probably not going to make a big, huge difference for you. But that said, I think that you'd be better off letting them do it. Rachel says, I just quit my job of 14 years to spend a year at home with my kiddo before she goes to kindergarten. My last paycheck was deposited. It was a bit more money, several thousand than I expected. I don't know if they're cashing out a benefit or what. I used the money to pay off a credit card bill. Now HR says it's an error. They're looking into it. Will I have to pay this back? It doesn't seem fair. Well, Mark says, yeah, you're going to have to. I don't know if you're. I think you're probably going to have to pay it back, but it does not seem fair that they made a mistake like that. Larry writes, I'm a longtime listener. I enjoy your shows, your common sense approach. Some people listen to music at the gym. I listen to your podcast. If it keeps you going, baby, keep going. Okay, Larry and his wife are in their mid-50s. They're going to retire within the next 5 to 7 years. And Larry says, I've been looking for a fee-only financial advisor to assist with my investment decisions, and I'm firming up our plans. Unfortunately, most of the advisors I found advertise a minimum of $3,000 to $5,000 for an initial plan and a similar amount on an annual basis. While I don't have an issue with spending money on developing the initial plan, the same amount going forward seems out of line. I agree. That totally seems like way too much. And he also adds that at that rate, expenses would be about the same as the advisor charging us 1% on our investable assets. My wife has 2 inherited IRAs with an advisor her father used, and we are charged a 1% rate. We've got about $500,000 in other investments to add to the $150,000 he is already managing. The current advisor, been good to deal with, knowledgeable, but he's waiting on us to move those funds. I hate starting off 1% in the hole every year. I've been considering the fee-only route as we're not active investors and we prefer buy and hold. I just want to find someone to compose a going-forward portfolio through one of those sites. What should I expect to pay for a fee-only advisor if they're not actively making day-to-day changes? We're in the Louisville metro area. Thank you in advance. Okay, Larry, here is something that's really interesting. I would say that the $3,000 to $5,000 for $500,000, let's say you're going to end up having, let's say, $700,000. I think that $3,000 to $5,000 for like a plan is not the problem, but the ongoing investment. So, will any of these fee-only people just charge you the minimum and go from there? Would that be possible? I think that, because I think that your plan may not be changing all that much. I don't know. Also, I have started to, I've been finding out about a couple of different companies. One you may want to check out is called Facet Wealth. I haven't talked about this. I'm going to try to get these folks on the air because I think they're kind of cool. This is something, I think that this could be an interesting way for you to get started. It might be worth it. It's a lower fee, but you get a dedicated CFP. I don't know. I think you should check it out because that may be a good combination for you of both of those. Okay, it's Jill on Money. And when we return, more of your questions. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Mark works very hard at all of that. And also don't forget that if you have not gotten cracking on your FAFSA forms, come on, let's go. A lot of these dollars are first come, first served. So you've got to go to FAFSA.gov to get rocking and rolling. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And we are delighted that you are joining us. Hey, just in following up on that question that we got about fee-only planners, you may have heard me talk about this website that I think is incredibly useful called esplanner.com. That is a place where you can actually help create retirement plan structures, and it is a paid website, so it'll be a paid calculator. But it's pretty cheap, and if you are the kind of person who wants to actually implement your own portfolio suggestions, and you really do want a big picture understanding of your retirement planning scenario, I think that's a good one. I think it's worth checking out. So I wanted to follow that up with the Facet Wealth with that one as well. Okay. Here we go. Frankie writes, I'm from Chicago, 30 years old, married. My wife is 28, and we make about $128,000 a year. We're each investing 18%, holy smokes, into our 401ks. They've got their emergency fund of 6 months. They're saving $2,300 a month additionally. They're debt-free. They've got a mortgage balance. And I'm in year 6 of 15 of the mortgage. Okay, here's our question. We got in touch with a friend of ours who recently became a financial planner with a large insurance company. This is when we start to have the sirens. You know what we need? That klaxon horn that they have Mark, let's get that like a sounder for a klaxon when we can hear an insurance question coming. Okay, it's Northwestern Mutual. Okay. He just sat down with us and offered us a whole life permanent life insurance policy as a way to invest safe money. What do you feel about whole life policies? Oh, God. Thank you for teeing this up so beautifully, Frankie. It's a $500,000 death benefit, blah, blah, blah. We'd paid it for 20 years. Ready for your 2 cents? He asked for my 2 cents. I just recently found your podcast, and I love your show. I just ordered your book. Way to go, Frankie. Okay, you ready, Frankie? That's the best. All right, that's your warning. I think, Mark, we're going to have that sounder up all the time when we get an insurance question. That's your warning, which is, do not do this. Don't do this, because you absolutely, positively do not need whole life. What you need, because, when you think about why you need to actually have insurance, is you need to have enough insurance to cover anything that would not be covered by your current asset level. So you should go and check out a life insurance calculator. And then if you're going to buy life insurance coverage, here's what you're going to do. You are going to be very smart, and you are going to go to Policy Genius, one of our sponsors. Not just because there's my sponsor, but honestly, this is a good place. PolicyGenius.com. You can go out and buy yourselves a term life insurance policy. I think it's just the two of you. I don't even think you have kids. So I think this is absolutely to be avoided. No to permanent life insurance. Hey, insurance guys, why are you continually doing this? It makes me insane. This is why people don't trust insurance people. Okay. Melissa is a mid-career professional in public health. She started in 2010 at a county health department. She left about after 5 years, and then went to university. Now she's at a small community nonprofit. In this field, it seems the only way to increase your salary is to get a PhD or to move jobs. I also teach as an adjunct at a local state university. So now I've been approached by a colleague from the health department about a position they're hiring for. It would be a lateral move, but salary-wise would put me back in the state pension system, which is attractive. I like my current job, so I'd be losing some cultural perks, but I wonder if 65-year-old me will be kicking myself. Mark, what do you think? Take a job you don't like for the pension? It depends. I really need more. I need a big reality check here because, Melissa, it matters, number one, how much money are we really talking about? Because if you get into the pension system and it's like a life changer, then that's something that we would take into account. But if it's not that much money and you really think that keeping this job would probably keep you happy and more satisfied over the long term, then we have to take that into account. So we need a little more information. Okay? Michelle says, I'm new to the show. I'm learning a ton. I hope you can steer me in the right direction regarding my 403B. That's like a similar account to a 401k, but usually for a teacher often. I'm 38 years old. I've got $250,000 in a target date fund with Fidelity. I keep getting emails from them to sign up for active management. It would cost me 43 basis points. That's 0.43%. And Michelle's like, I don't even know if that's expensive or not. It's not expensive, but we'll get to that. I called Fidelity. They suggested I've outgrown the target date fund and I should opt for active management or do the allocation myself. Okay, I agree with that, but let's focus on that choice. Active management, no. Asset allocation yourself, yes. That's what you should do. And no, don't pay them the money. But even if you have little investing experience, what you should be doing is going onto their website, taking a risk assessment, seeing what we discover, and then they'll give you a sample allocation. But let me send you a different message. Michelle, call us up. Let us know. Have your choices in front of you of your 403B, and we'll help you select your allocation. And then we'll set it and we'll forget it, and you will not have to, and you will save 0.43% a year. How about that? So follow up with us, okay? All right. It is Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, gosh, we'd love to hear from you. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That is our email address. And hop onto our website, and there you can buy my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and I want to remind you that we are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios. Capital One, what is in your wallet, or what's in your wallet? If you've got a financial question, shoot us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And here is a note from Mike, who I think is really kind of very smart in this as asking this question. I wrote a column for Tribune. If you want to see it, I think everything is on the website. Mark usually does that. I think, what do we call that one? Before Medicare for All, there was Medicare. Okay. So Mike says, I recently read your column on Medicare for All. I don't know if it's a good idea or not. My comment is that when we talk about Medicare for All, it's made to sound like it's free. I'm a recent retiree and I receive Medicare, but it is certainly not free by any means. My wife and I each pay $135 per month for Medicare Part B, $29 for Part D, $88 for a supplemental plan. So this comes to a total of about $506 a month for both of us. How will this benefit a family of 2, 3, 4 if they have to pay similar costs? Are the politicians trying to dream up a plan where it would be totally free? Sounds like not very well thought out proposal. If I'm not understanding this correctly, I would love your response or comments. You know, it always does sound like it's free, but here's what it is. The way these plans are really going to be structured, if they ever come to fruition, is not that they are free. The thesis is that what people are currently paying for their employer-based plans is really pretty expensive. We just got the totals out from the Kaiser Health Foundation, and I think that right now, for a family of 4, most of them are paying about $10,000 a year in all these costs. That's their contribution, not to mention another 10 from the employer. So that said, when you tally everything up, the plan would be that taxes would rise for everybody. These employer-based plans would go away and replaced by a Medicare type of program, and that this would essentially mean that net people would pay less. It won't work out that way. There will be some losers. But you're right. Medicare is not free, although it's great insurance. And think about this. For $6,000 a year, you got a lot of good coverage. Thanks for that question. And if you have a financial question or a question about anything being talked about in politics, of course, we'll be happy to demystify it. It's Jill on Money. When we return, more of your questions. Send us a note. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's the second hour of Jill on Money. We are broadcasting live from the Policy Genius Studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. All right. We love when you send us your emails. We love to answer your questions. A couple of ways to do that. Just send an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com, or you can always hop onto the website, jillonmoney.com, listen to past shows. There's a contact button there, and you can just click on it and send us your thoughts. Right now, let's go into an interview that we conducted with a very interesting business owner. She really was able to bare her soul in some respects about what happened to her company. The company, you may have heard of it, called Aden and Anais, makes baby swathing stuff. She wrote a book called What It Takes. The guest is Raegan Moya-Jones. And she was just so open and real interesting, great backstory. So here's our interview with Raegan Moya-Jones. Okay, so born in Australia, bounce around. You do that weird Australian thing, like, let me just travel the world for a year or whatever.
Put a backpack on our backs
right.
and off we go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And then you're in the States, right? This all starts when you were in the States and you have a baby.
Yes.
And tell us about this product. By the way, I'm not a parent. I had no idea anything about this product. But Mark, the producer, he's freaking out. He's like, oh, my God. I hope she's on good terms with the company. I want that product. Like, he loves the stuff.
I wish I had have known. I can still hook him up.
He's
going to
get hooked up.
I'll get you sorted, Mark.
He's all over the registry. You're all over their baby registry. He and his affianced are due in weeks.
Fantastic.
That's why he looks so bad right
Number
now.
one, we'll wait till they get here. My God, if you look bad now, you're in for a world of pain when the baby arrives.
And it's only one and you have 4.
4, I know.
Jeez.
I was a glutton for punishment.
Okay, so what is the exact product that was the spark here?
It was a blanket for all intents and purposes, and it was made of a material called muslin, which is basically an open gauzy weave fabric. was a big piece of fabric, 47 by 47 inches. And back home in Australia, when you have a baby, you use 10 of them a day because they're multi-purpose. You swaddle, wrap the baby in them, use them as stroller covers, nursing covers, tummy time, all the things.
They're washable.
Well, that's the best
disposable?
part. The more you wash them, the softer they get. So they're one of those things where, they really stand the test of time. But it was the combination of, I think, being truly the right thing to use to swaddle your baby, that it was a multi-purpose product. So when I tell you that every Aussie parent used 10 of them a day when they had a baby, when I went looking for them in the States when I had baby number one, I just couldn't believe that no one had ever heard of it. So I got my sister to send me over stuff from Australia. And then when I was actually using it, I just thought, every Aussie can't have this wrong. And I'm sure if I introduced it to American parents, they'd respond the same way. So it was really just that blanket, a 47 by 47 square piece of muslin, that started it all.
And you did this with somebody else to begin with,
yes,
right?
Yes, I had a business partner, one of my best friends, and that ended really badly.
All right, wait a second. So first, what year did you actually start this?
Had the idea for it in 2003, and it took from 2003 to 2006 to sort of work out how the hell to do it.
Were you working at the time? Were you still
was.
doing? So you were like, I got to make money. So this was like a side hustle, essentially, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and that was a conscious choice on my part to stay working at my day job so that I didn't have to give up the income from that. And I built and ran Aden and Anais until 2009 of a night after my daughters had gone to bed.
Unbelievable. And also, so you guys are working together as a side hustle for a few years. How long did that relationship last?
Claudia left the business in 2008. So it was early 2008 that I got the email from her saying, hey, I don't believe in this business anymore, and set out terms of what it was going to take for her to go away.
How did you feel when you got that?
I was devastated, more so on a personal level because she was one of my best friends. To put it in perspective, Claudia is Jewish, and her husband had made me the legal guardian of her children. God forbid anything happened to them. That's how close we were. So when this happened, I said, what are you doing?
And what was she? What was motivating her?
You know what, Jill? I don't know. Like because I really did initially think it was just she didn't believe in it. There was a huge disparity between our financial situation. Her and her husband had plenty of money, and Marcos and I didn't. So it got to the point where we could not keep up with the amount of money that was going into the business that they could. And so we started to borrow money off Claudia and her husband's family, actually, at 10% interest. But I think that made her husband more uncomfortable than it did her. But nevertheless, I think that was truly the catalyst for the demise of our partnership.
So she leaves. What do you do?
I have a nervous breakdown.
Stop it. No, you say that in a joking way, but you still have a business. You have a possibility.
In hindsight, and actually I don't think I've said this before, in hindsight it ended up being a great thing because I am a firm believer there can only be one true leader in a business. And I think that if Claudia had have stayed on, it would have ultimately been detrimental to Aden and Anais because it's impossible to be aligned on everything. And when you have two equal partners, that becomes pretty difficult.
Yeah. And so where do you go from that point where you're now essentially on your own? So it's, 5 years into the mission, got it. Are you still thinking this I'm on to something?
Yes. Actually, when the split was going on, it was very emotional, obviously. And there were definitely moments where I thought, what am I doing? Can I do this on my own now? I had to try and find money to get her out because I didn't have the money to buy her out. So, I definitely had a moment. And it was my husband who sort of intervened and said, do you believe in this business? And I said, yeah, 100%. He said, well, then fight for it. He goes, he goes, don't give up now. And I don't think I would have, but there was definitely moments where I was questioning whether or not I should keep going.
So how do you go forward from there?
Well, I ended up bringing in 3 different investors to buy out Claudia's share of the business. So that was the initial sort of step. And then it was just business as usual again. It just sucked because it was only me then. So the workload doubled for me.
Okay, we'll get back to the interview with Raegan Moya-Jones in just a second during the little break that we're about to have. Why not go to JillOnMoney.com and you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter, but you know what else you can do? You can buy my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. What better gift is there for the holiday season? 13 ways to right your financial wrongs right there. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. Hey, we have a sister podcast. It's a program. It's just like a radio show, but it's on demand whenever you want it. It's called Jill on Money. You can get it on Apple, Stitcher, radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. Subscribe. We do a few different things over there. Okay, I want to get back to our interview with Raegan Moya-Jones. She built this company, Aden and Anais, pretty much out of nothing, out of an idea. And it became this massive brand. I knew nothing about it. Mark told me about it, and that's why he booked her, because he just thought it was such a cool story. So here is more of our interview with Raegan Moya-Jones. And what point do you start to say to yourself, this doesn't suck so much, it's actually happening? When are you starting to feel more confident?
I never didn't feel confident about the business. It was overwhelming in terms of the workload coming at me, because you got to remember, I still had a full-time day job and 3 children at that point.
And then you actually had to have another one also.
Yes, I did.
God.
Glutton for punishment, right?
4 girls.
4 girls. Yeah, 2 teenagers now that are doing my head in. But that's
that's the next
another radio show. So, it was a lot. But I never doubted the business and the success, that I was ultimately looking to achieve.
When the 3 people who bought Claudia out come into the business, what was your interaction? Were they just passive or were they part of the business?
No, they were passive.
And
really.
That was fine, right?
Yes and no. I would have liked some help.
Okay.
But their situations didn't allow it, so...
So when is it that you feel, like when you brought in that other partner that came in that you love, the guys before the bad guys?
Seidler Equity Partners.
When did we bring those guys in?
Those guys invested in 2010. I signed the papers on that deal the day after I had my 4th baby.
All right, so talk about the private equity and why this was a really important and good relationship.
Yes, it was a real game changer for me personally and the business. At the time when they invested in Aden and Anais, I wasn't really a private equity opportunity. I was still pretty small. I think when they came in, we were going from 4.5 million and then projecting to go to 10 the next year. So we were pretty much a rounding error for the Seidlers in terms of the type of deals.
How did they come to know you?
One of my girlfriends who invested when Claudia left, her husband worked for Credit Suisse and he made the introduction. He just said to me, these are the greatest guys I've ever met in private equity. You're probably too small for them, but
meet them.
They'll probably be able to advise you. So we met, we hit it off instantly. And they made an exception, I guess, and invested in Aden and anais when we were teeny tiny in terms of their businesses.
And you speak quite glowingly about them in the book.
Yes.
And what is it that they brought that was helpful for you as a business owner, besides the money?
Right.
Which is always nice.
Yes, the money definitely helped. They ended up being a real partner, advisors, because I'd been flying solo for the most part, trying to work it out as I went along. So it was wonderful to have people with that kind of experience on call 24/7, really, as I was building the business and as I said, learning as I went along. So they really taught me how to run a successful business. I'm a salesperson, so I was all about that top line revenue. And they explained to me, this is how you create real value in a company like yours. And they were just super helpful.
It sounds also like they really have like that elusive thing, what you hope you get in private equity, which you don't usually get, or at least you don't hear about, which is sounds like they really helped nurture you, and they were a bit like cheerleaders for you. Like you talk about how like you were making some decision and you went to them and they're like, unless you're going to go like buy a corporate jet, don't come to us on this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And
they really let me run the business.
And that they also had so much faith in you and your vision, which is kind of cool.
Yes, it really is.
So they invested 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Now walk me through to the bad guys.
So
you had a good marriage and you had to go off and like have an affair.
Well, I didn't have to.
I know. Just
I was like, biggest regret. It was actually the Seidlers, which in itself is an extraordinary thing that they did this. They came to me and said, look, Rags, you're a rocket ship. What you're doing is amazing. But I was still just drawing a very small salary out of the business. I'd taken no money out of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of said, have you thought about selling, taking some chips off the table to set you and the family up? And then you can roll back in whatever you feel comfortable with, because we do believe you're going to continue to scale the business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my naivety, I didn't realise that was even an option. I just thought once you sold, and that was that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really them coming to me that sort of sparked that'd be fantastic, if I could put money away for colleges and buy apartments and do all that sort of stuff. So that was really the impetus for selling the business in 2013.
And you had a ton of bids. You obviously had some bankers who helped you out, and you had a bunch of bids, and you whittle it down to 9. That's what I remember.
That's right.
And then,
good memory.
And so what are you thinking about when you're looking at those 9?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're thinking about in real time?
I was thinking, are these good people,
Mm-hmm.
and are they going to make a good partner? When I eventually did the deal, Swanda Pace, the second private equity firm that came in, they weren't the highest bidder. It wasn't about that. It was I wanted to find Seidler Equity 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking for that.
Did they present something, or did you have a feeling that was a little bit weird that you ignored? Or, it's sort of like dating in that way. It's
Yes.
like you're in this relationship and you're kind of like, this is going great. There's this niggling thing back here,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't seem like it's rearing its ugly head, or I can manage that.
Yes.
Was there an inkling for you?
There was. And I only realised there was an inkling when I was lamenting to a friend about how did I get it so wrong. Because I really do pride myself on being a great judge of character.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this friend who said, no, you actually did. You had that moment of, oh gosh, this doesn't feel right, but you ignored it. So it was obviously when private equity are courting you to buy your company, they're telling you what you want to hear. So
Right.
you do need to sort of weed through that. These guys, they sped through the deal. So we were doing the sale process was very quick in the scheme of things. It was probably about 5 months, I guess, from start to finish. And it was happening in December. So we were about to close we closed December 23rd, and it was a few days prior to that I was sitting talking to the lead partner, and he just said something that every ounce of being in me sort of went, oh, that doesn't sound good. Like it was just the way he said it. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, these might not be the right people. But we were so far into the deal process.
Yeah,
and
it's like 3 weeks before the wedding.
Right. Everyone was hanging on by a thread, because that's the thing. When you're running a process to sell your company, you've got 2 full-time jobs. Oh, yes. So, and it wasn't just me. I think if it was just me that it was going to affect by pulling the plug at the 11th hour, I would have done it. But I was looking at my team who were hanging on by a thread by that point, and everyone was just so eager to get it done before the holidays that I sort of put it down to nerves and deal fatigue and went through with it anyway.
And so it closed when?
December 23rd, 2013.
Okay, we'll get back to Raegan Moya-Jones in just a second. Fascinating story, isn't it? During the break, is there something going on in your financial life that needs attention before the end of the year? Send us a note. We'll be able to help you out. The email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And we are in the midst of a really great interview with an entrepreneur. Her name is Raegan Moya-Jones. You know, I'm a sucker for the cool accent, so there you got that. The name of her company, Aden and Anais. And what's interesting about her story is, she has this like typical relationship where you have a founder with a partner, and maybe that initial partnership goes south, and she brings money people in. And usually that's sort of like, the money people come in. But actually, her first bunch of money that comes in from an institutional investor, it all goes really well. It's almost like this idyllic version of the way venture capital or private equity is supposed to work. Here's more of our interview with Raegan Moya-Jones. What happens in this first period where you're the boss, they've made an investment in you, and you're running a business? And how many people are working in the company at that point?
I think there was probably about 70 at that
a lot
point.
Of people.
Yeah, we had international. We had offices in Japan, Australia, UK, Canada.
So you have the money. What do you want to do with this money? Well, first of all, you get your family set, right? And then you plow money back into the business.
That's right.
Okay. And now talk about operating a business now with more money. What is it that you obviously said, here's what I want to do with your money if you invest it. What happens at that point? What do you do with the money?
It was all about scaling, being able to hire people that had expertise in certain areas, and just the money was going back into the business.
So I just want to read one thing that I dog-eared about this. 3 months after the sale, the first, or should I say second, glimmer of trouble with this partner surfaced. And you write, I had made the decision to fire our head of sales because it was clear that we needed someone with a different skill set as the company entered the next stage of growth. And I didn't tell, this is a pseudonym, Chris, before I did it. And you had assumed, like, hey, this is like the other guys, my partners, they just do your thing. And you say he was furious, and he says, and this, you quote him, how dare you, he said, you're not allowed to make decisions like that without consulting us.
Yes.
That had to be like the crucible. That had to be like the moment where you're like,
yes,
I'm in deep doo-doo.
It was. I was livid. And I didn't understand it. They didn't even know this person. It just didn't make any sense to me why they would need to be involved in something like that. And what made it even worse is I really, really liked that person. Lovely, lovely man, really liked him. So it was very difficult for me to let him go. That wasn't an easy decision. So to then be, scolded for doing it like a schoolgirl didn't sit well.
Didn't fly. And so you actually had the cojones to go to Chris and say, like, what are you doing?
Right.
And how did he react to that?
He actually sort of backtracked and said, "Oh, I did it." And I said, "But every time you speak to me, I feel like a petulant schoolgirl." Mm-hmm. And, I said, "You just wrote a very big check for a company that I built from scratch. So at what point does that actually equate to I might actually know a little bit about what I'm doing?"
Right. And at that point, I always wonder when I hear conflicts like this is not an unusual
Oh my gosh,
private equity
so
story,
common.
right?
People don't talk about it. I think there's shame, embarrassment. I know full well when I tell people that I was fired from my own company that there's an element of, oh, wow, she must have really screwed that up.
Yeah.
So
At this point, it has hit the fan. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind in your mind, is it all over for you? Or are you like, I'm dead man walking right then and there?
no, definitely not then and there. I actually thought that having had the conversation might change things a little bit, but they didn't. And it just continued to be a very stressed relationship from very early on.
And they're questioning your board pick, and they're saying no to every. And I thought that was interesting. The woman who you had said this person should be on the board seemed incredibly qualified, and she comes back to you and says, "I had a conversation with this guy, and he's basically."
The most unprofessional conversation I've ever had was exactly what she said to me. And I didn't know this woman. We weren't friends. We had been introduced by a headhunter who thought she would make a good board candidate for Aden and anais. And so there was no personal relationship. So the fact that she felt compelled to pick up the phone after that call and tell me just how bad it was. And I remember she said to me, "I just hope you've got an exit plan and a good lawyer, Raegan."
Oh my God.
But at that point, I knew what I was dealing with. I was not remotely shocked by that.
You
Cool.
continued to work, you build it up, and at what point were you told that you will no longer be acting as the CEO of the organization?
I was told that, and by phone call, by the way. They didn't even bother to come in and sit with me face to face to fire me. They told me that in November 2016.
And at that point, the company is still humming along, right?
Yeah, there were definitely some hiccups. But
Right, it's a business.
It's a business. It's normal. I'm not sitting here in any way pretending that I didn't make mistakes along the way, but I don't know any CEO that doesn't make mistakes. So Aden and anais revenues continues to grow to this day. That's never gone backwards. So, I got a phone call, and what they exactly said to me is, now we've acquired, because Aden and anais acquired another company, now we've acquired that company. We don't think you're capable of remaining as the CEO now that we're combining the businesses, and we need to hire a superstar CEO to do that.
Not the CEO that we bet on originally. This is what's like crazy making, I'm sure.
Yes.
And you were the one who's flagged this as a potential takeover deal, the company they bought. So it wasn't like they came and said, "We've got this great deal." You were the one who did that.
I did. I had my eye on that company even back when the Seidlers were our investors. I had said, if that ever comes up, I think that there'd be some synergy there that I could do some great things with, and be a great acquisition. But at the time that we acquired them, I wasn't on board with it.
Okay, we'll get back to Raegan Moya-Jones in just a second. During the break, why don't you go to the website, JillOnMoney.com? We're always looking for more resources, so scan the resource tab and see if you can help us. Suggest something cool that you found, some financial tool that might be worthwhile exploring, and also that some of your other Jill on Money listeners could find. Okay? Check it out. JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are in the midst of an interview with Raegan Moya-Jones, entrepreneur. author of What It Takes. And this is a book where she outlines building this company called Aden and Anais, what happens along the way. And in the last segment, we talked about like the real beautiful partnership that she was able to form with her initial round of institutional investors. And you know, the plot thickens. Because after that, those nice folks basically say to her, you need a whole, like another tranche of funding. You need more serious money to come in here to help you get where you want to go. And this was the moment, essentially, when Raegan Moya-Jones took the money from the wrong people. She had a feeling from the very beginning that it was not going to go well. And no, it did not go well. So here is the conclusion of our interview with Raegan Moya-Jones. It's so interesting because from the moment they told you you're no longer the CEO to you actually leaving the company, there's this purgatory period, which seems horrifying,
that's exactly what it
right?
was.
So it's like you're acting CEO because they don't hire anyone for a while. How long did it take them?
Well, that happened in November, and the new CEO came in I think it was August.
And then he lasted 5 weeks or something?
Yes.
Ridiculous. Okay. But that period, it's exhausting. So how are you managing this? Who's your go-to person? You got a husband, but it's like, where's your release valve?
Well, I couldn't tell anybody in the company. And they'd actually said that. They said, you don't need to be sharing this because it's going to take us some time and you're still the CEO until we find the new CEO. And I said, well, what's my role going to be? Well, we can't tell you that. We have to wait. That'll be the decision of the new CEO. I went, well, that's fair. So there wasn't really anyone to talk to about it. I talked to my sister, but it was no one on a business
Like, no, you
level.
don't have a mentor because you can't tell anyone outside of the company.
Right.
There's no one in the company you really trust because these guys are schmucks.
Right.
So this is like terrible.
And I was trying to distance myself a little bit from the team
Of
because
course.
I knew that I was now a target of their. So I just knew that anybody who was really Team Raegan
Could be at
could
risk.
be in. Yes,
That's interesting. So when did you finally get the heave-ho?
that was in March of 2018.
How long did it take you to get through the emotional experience? Okay, because let me just, for anyone who, before you write in, yeah, she's got a pile of money, but this is like very emotional.
Yes,
So-
I'd lived and breathed that company for 12 years, and to have someone just come in one day and say, "Yeah, get out."
So how do you get through that period?
Wine.
What kind of wine? Is it some
Lots of it.
Australian wine? Do we have to go to the southern part of the wine country and south of Sydney? Isn't that where the wine
no,
is?
Actually, I wasn't that fussy during that time. As long as it was wine, it was enough for me.
$2 chuck.
Yeah, exactly.
So really, like, look, every business person, small business person, and now you are like, I would say that's beyond small business, pretty big business. You go through these periods, and I think it's important to talk about, like, there is an emotional toll. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's just gone through a brutal 18 months, and he said to me, until he finally got fired. He knew he was going to get fired.
Right. You,
And-
you see the writing on the wall.
And he goes, I am not a crier. I just cried from exhaustion.
Right.
He said, I couldn't believe what I had been carrying around.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to people who are going through these kind of really crappy times?
This too shall pass
Yeah.
is the best advice. But to be clear, when I did get fired, when the moment actually happened, the first emotion I felt was relief. It was, oh, thank God, I don't have to, the charade, the stress, the where do I fit in here,
Yep.
what's going on. There was definitely relief. Then it's sort of, anger, shock, all of those things. And it really did take me most of last year to get through it.
Do you still have money invested in the company?
Yes.
Oh, my God, that's the worst.
The worst.
I had that also, and then I walked away from it.
Yes. Well,
I couldn't stand it.
I have to too.
Yeah.
Because, look, my hope is that they continue to build the business and sell it and I get my money and some back, but it's a really crappy place to be in when you've got meaningful money invested in a company that you have absolutely no say in. If I had have known that there was a chance that I wasn't going to be involved in the business, I would never have written that check back in.
And you know what's funny about that? I think that when anyone does a deal like that, and I can speak from firsthand experience, is that the best counsel that you could get in that moment is someone who says, pretend you got fired a year from now. Now what do you want this contract to look like?
Right. And look, and that's why I'm out here. That's why I was brutally honest in the book. A lot of something I think that a lot of founders don't do because there's shame around being fired from your own company, and it's just, and then there's the legalities of it. But I've done this because if I can just help one other founder, entrepreneur, not have to experience what I experienced, then it's worth it.
Well, thanks to Raegan Moya-Jones. And one thing we didn't get to in the interview is that, she's a serial entrepreneur. And her next venture is, you ready for this? High-end moonshine. If you want to check it out, the name of the brand, it's called Saint Luna. All right. When we come back, more from you. We'll finish the show with a little question. Jill on Money. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And before we finish the program, I just want to get to a couple more emails. Let's see. Lawrence writes that his son is a junior at an Ivy League school, and he's having a hard time determining what career path to take. Any credible websites, books, resources to narrow his career focus? First of all, if you're at an Ivy League school, they better have a darn good career services office. I would do that. I would have him talk to kids who have recently graduated in lots of different fields to get a sense of what people do. I mean, he's got to have some interest. What's his major? You can obviously go to websites like Monster and LinkedIn and the Ladders and start poking around. But an easier way to do it is definitely to do it through the university. I think that's the path of least resistance. William says he's been converting his IRA to a Roth so I can save on taxes for my wife when I die. I'm not sure I will save anything. We're not going to need the money, so I'm just going to pass it on to her. What would happen? The answer is she would just convert it into her own Roth IRA, and if she doesn't ever need it, then whoever inherits it will actually be able to save because they won't have to pay taxes on it when it's due. So you don't have to kill yourself to get it all done, but $700 in stock, $700,000 in stock, $400 IRA, $250 in a Roth IRA. We're both over 71 and a half. That seems fine. I wouldn't go crazy. You don't have to keep killing yourself to do it. But I like the idea of paying a lower tax rate because who knows, maybe you live 10 more years and taxes will go up. And finally, Debbie wants to know about protecting money from a nursing home and purchasing a single premium life insurance policy. Please, please, please do not do this until you get a second opinion, hopefully from a fiduciary fee-based advisor. I think that the question is you may be depleting the money that you need and you lose the liquidity. And I really get nervous about these kinds of schemes. So I would be getting a second and maybe even a third opinion before I did something like that. Okay, that's it. That's the program. We have been broadcasting live from the Policy Genius Studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Go to policygenius.com. And this is Jill on Money. And if you've got any sort of questions, please, please, please do me a favor. Go onto our website, jillonmoney.com, and feel free to email us anytime, all week long. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.